Welcome everyone back to Podcast Detect. I guess that's what I'm calling my channel this week because outside of last week's Missing Pieces episode, which I recorded 1 week ago today, I had time to make exactly one Lego video for you guys this week, and it happened to be a haul video that I made rather hastily as we were heading out for another week of travel. You guys have been following along with our story, know that just a few weeks ago we went to Outer Banks, and this week we had a little bit of, a clearing, and Mrs. Brickitect went ahead and scheduled a whole nother trip for us, which I was very appreciative of. This time, we didn't travel all the way to North Carolina. We didn't go far at all. We simply went to Philadelphia, which is a city that's in the state we live in. It's Pennsylvania. I say that not to test your geography skills, but I know some people live in other countries, and maybe you have no idea where Pennsylvania is. Maybe you have no idea what Philadelphia is, but I can tell you that it's a place that we've never been to before, outside of just traveling through on our way to New Jersey to the beach, or going to, I don't know if we go that way going to Ocean City, Maryland. I think it depends on which way the GPS takes us, but this is our chance this week to actually go into Philadelphia and explore. And the thing that we decided to do more than anything was to check out the museums that they have there. Clark is 6 years old, and I feel like we both feel this way, that it's a great time for him to experience things like this and to learn. And in my mind, I think there could be something that he could potentially see in a museum that could trigger something in his mind that could set him down a path in his life that was directly related to something that he saw. I mean, it's no guarantees and you never know, but it doesn't hurt. So we're mainly doing this for Clark, but I also love museums as well. And I love to learn about things and to see things and to be hands-on with stuff. And that's exactly what this week was. So I have a bit of an outline here of all the things that we did in the few days that we were gone. And I thought I would run down through that with you and kind of give you, an audio journal of all the fun stuff that we did this week that you'll eventually see on Greg's World after I get caught up with all the other editing that I have, because I'm still making Outer Banks videos and I have some other stuff too, 4th of July videos. Oh, it's nuts. But I love these summer trips and the things that we do because we wait all year to do this. I've talked about this before. We wait all year with Mrs. Brickitect teaching school and Clarkman in school. We wait for this time that we can all be together to thoroughly enjoy this stuff. And that's exactly what we did. So let's start off on Monday. I recorded the haul video for you guys, which is, again, still sitting behind me. It was the Adidas stuff. And I made that video, uploaded it, and it was still uploading as we left. So I was like, all right, at least I got something out for these guys, because I don't have a surplus of videos here like I do on Greg's World. It's like, to make the Lego stuff, I need to find time to do it, but there's so many other things happening and I'm just trying to take advantage of it all, as you could probably tell. So I was like, well, at least that's something to go out in between the two Missing Pieces episodes, because I figured there probably wouldn't be much going on this week in the world of Lego. But there was a lot going on in the world of exploration and learning. And Monday, we left here. We drove to Philadelphia, which was about a 3.5-hour drive. The commute... Is it a commute if you're just traveling somewhere? The drive was fine until we got right into Philadelphia, where things got a little stressful. I'm not a huge fan of city driving, and I find that when you get into cities, people tend to be a little more aggressive, a little less caring of your space on the road. And man, it was a little scary with a couple vehicles out there. Not like I feel like we can drive there just fine. It's just you really got to watch out for other people, because people are crazy out there on the road. And there were times I was like, dude, we are going to get smashed into, and luckily we didn't. So we came back in one piece, spoiler alert. But Monday was the day that we drove into the city, ended up finding a parking lot to park in, and paid for parking, which I think was, oh my gosh, it was 1 hour for $12 for parking, or you could do 12 hours for $26. There was no in between. So we paid $26 to park our car. We walked around the block and we went to our first museum, which was the Mutter Museum, which I think I am saying right. It's Mutter. If you're interested in checking this out, I'll explain a little bit about it. It's used to be like a physician's museum or college, where they have the human body exhibits on display. And Clarkman is very interested in this stuff. He loves the human body anatomy. He loves learning about the muscles and bones and the organs and all of that. So again, this is what I was talking about earlier. You have an interest in something. As a parent, I feel like it's my job to push you into that even more and explore it. And who knows what could come of it. Maybe Clarkman will become a doctor. maybe he will. Maybe he'll become who knows. The world is his oyster. But for that day, we went to the museum, and it was a really fascinating place. Very kind of scary, actually. There's all these actual human body parts on display, including a human brain. There's, I mean, you name it, it's in there. But the thing that I was most interested in was this wall of skulls that they have. And I found it fascinating to look at these skulls and see the differences in them, and to also think that each one of these skulls was a real person at one point. And below it actually has like their name and like where they're from and how they died. And it was crazy. Like the one that kind of stuck with me, that kind of freaked me out, was this one kid. It was a kid's skull, and he was executed for being a child murderer. I'm like, holy smokes, man! If there ever was a haunted place, the Mutter Museum in Philadelphia would definitely be that place, because man, there's some crazy stuff. They had like pieces of skin in there that had tattoos on them, so you could actually see the tattoos. They had full skeletons, including probably what my favorite thing to see was this giant skeleton they had in there. This person was 7 feet 6 inches tall, had some type of growth issue where instead of like growing throughout your entire life normally and maybe becoming 7 feet 6 inches tall, it happened rather quickly, and the bones stretched, and it was just incredible to see this giant skeleton in there. And they had these other skeletons as well from this boy and this girl who, I guess, maybe they didn't live long lives, but I think they lived to adulthood, and their bodies worked in a way that instead of creating like new tissue or muscle, their bodies were actually creating new bone. So they had like all this bone that was growing over their current bones, which kind of put them in a position where they weren't able to move very well, as you can expect. Like if you started growing bones across your arms or your legs, it was really crazy to see. And it's such a rare disease, but to see that the fact that these people were willing to donate their bodies and then allow them to be on display for people to look at, I guess, and to learn from, is amazing. And that's the story of that entire place. It's just like all these things kind of put in there. You can learn about cancer cells. You can learn about anything. In fact, there's a YouTube video. I wasn't allowed to film in there, unfortunately. I snuck a little bit and then I got yelled at. But there is like a 24-minute video on YouTube of a guided tour of this place if you're interested in such things. For me, it was like, it was a little much for me, and maybe for Clarkman as well, but Mrs. Brickitect was super into it, and it was a nice experience to go into. The funniest part of the whole experience was, I told you when we parked our car, we walked around the block to get into the place. Well, when we left, instead of going left to go back where we came from, we turned right and then walked around the corner of the building. And it happened to be that our car was literally parked like right there. And it was so wild because even though we were using like the GPS, I was like, all right, let's just find a place that we can park at, and ended up parking directly behind the museum, which could explain why it was so expensive to park there. But it was really cool that we just like walked out of this place and like, boom, there it was. Also of interest as we were driving in was this place that Clarkman was referring to as the Avengers Tower. I don't know what the building actually was or what its name is, but it kind of did look like it a little bit if you took away some of the flair of it. And the museum is directly like kind of beside it. And it was cool to be in like the city, especially coming from like a very rural place like we live. Some of you guys that live in cities probably think nothing of it, but for us, we're like, we're the country folk that go into the city and are amazed. So that was a great time. We went back to the hotel after that, or actually we went to our hotel, and Cody set up this place that was called I can't remember. It started with a W. There's two different places, and I don't want to say the wrong one. I don't know. But she set it up so we'd have a balcony that's right out over the street, and you could look down and see the other museums, and then you could look down this way. Like, it was just a great view. And the best part of the hotel wasn't the view. It was the fact that on the roof of the hotel, there was an infinity pool. And you could go up to this, and which we did. As soon as we got back, we went up there and we went swimming. And it was so awesome to be in this pool, and you're like looking out over Philadelphia. And then you look over here and there's this giant building that's behind you, and there's another giant building here. And it was just really neat to experience that. I've never swam in a place so interesting before. Like, of all the hotels and things we stayed at, most of the pools are indoors, and if they're outdoors, they're certainly not on the roof of the building. The place also had valet, which I'm not super comfortable with this highfalutin lifestyle. So it was really weird to like give up possession of your vehicle and like just let someone else drive away in it. But It was something. But once we got there, we kind of just left our car parked. All the places that Cody had kind of set up for us to go. That's Mrs. Brickitect, by the way. They were all within walking distance, and I was like, sweet, I'd love to walk, first of all, and I'd love to walk through the city and explore it. So that night for dinner, we walked to this pub where we got dinner, and it was really interesting, like kind of going in this place, and like it was kind of set up in a taller building, and all the places where you could potentially eat at were kind of cordoned off a little bit, and there were bars set up, which we don't really drink, so that wasn't a big thing. We just kind of wanted to try the food. And as for food, for the first time in my life, I tried bangers and mash, which, if you don't know what that is, because I didn't know what that is, it is sausage with mashed potatoes and kind of like an onion gravy. Hopefully I justified that well. And it was pretty good, but they didn't serve nearly enough for my appetite. Like, it was like one sausage with some mashed potatoes, and like by the time I was done, I'm like, man, I'm like still hungry. Like I could go for another serving of that, basically. Us fat Americans. But we ended up getting dessert, and that pretty much that took care of that. What did we have? We had dessert every night we were there, of course, because what else? You only live once, right? What did I get? I got some type of banana pudding with, geez, I can't remember. I'll have to watch the vlog. It's so far back in memory. I'm doing a terrible job of documenting our trip here. I wasn't planning to go so far into the food. I was just going to talk to you about bangers and mash, but I did end up having dessert, and it was rather delicious. If you'd like to see what I got, it's probably in the vlog that you'll see sometime in the future. But the best part of it wasn't the dessert or the bangers and mash. What I really loved was the bad thing that happened, which was us leaving the place. And we knew, like, rain was on the horizon, and I was like, man, I hope it doesn't rain as we're walking there, and I hope this rainstorm doesn't hit us. As we were leaving, like, I could see it kind of drizzling outside, because we're up on like maybe like the second or third story. I could see it's drizzling outside. Like, I could see water come down. I'm like, no big deal, it's just draining off the side of the building. We open the door, and it's like dumping on us, and I'm like, oh shoot, like, we don't have a car. I don't have an umbrella. Even if we had an umbrella, like, we kind of stood in the doorway. You see people walking by, they have huge umbrellas. They're completely soaked. Like, this is a downpour. Water's rushing through the streets. Fortunately, they have, like, we didn't want to like wait around inside like their doorway, but they had like these little outdoor seating area that was kind of built, I'm assuming, to respond to COVID, so people could actually still eat there, but it's outside and cordoned off by like plexiglass in each of these little huts, essentially. So we ended up going in one of those, and I really enjoyed this setback because, one, it was like a plot twist, and no good movie just goes from like thing to thing and like everything's happy. It was like, oh shoot, like it's pouring. It was fun watching all these people like walking by or running by, getting soaked. The roads were like flooding, like cars were going by. It was really neat. So we probably stayed in there maybe like 30 minutes, maybe more. I am not sure. But eventually it kind of lightened up, and we walked out and didn't even get wet on the way back. We stopped at, I think, a Walgreens, and Cody did end up getting like a small umbrella just in case, just to have for like the future, because they were calling for like a little bit of rain each day. But we didn't end up using it. It was good weather from there on, and it was just kind of fun to experience that. And I got some good video of that. At least I hope so. I haven't reviewed any of the footage, but a part of all of the things that we do for me is not only to experience it, but also to document it and try to do a good job at that. And then to eventually craft a story out of it through editing that I can share with the world. So a lot of that is what I look forward to. And when I think back about these experiences I had, I'm like looking forward to getting into the footage of it, as boring as that may seem to you. And like, obviously the fun part is being there, and then to edit that up is kind of, it's work, but I love to have that. And I love to know that those memories that I made, like that night that existed, is not only in my mind, but it's on video that I could go back and look at any time, especially, way down the line when that day is forgotten. You could go back and look at a moment. And I've done this with Clarkman's videos where I'll just watch like a random video. I'm like, man, I don't even remember that day, but to have it recorded is amazing. So if there's ever been any time that I've ever tried to encourage you to document things in your life, even if you don't intend to share them with the world, which I know is like, it's weird, right? And it's really tapping into your privacy, I suppose. Record it for yourself, and make like a journal for yourself. And that's what this is too. This is like my audio journal of all the things that I'm thinking about and doing. And speaking of doing, that kind of takes us to the next day. We kind of just went back to the hotel after that, and I think we watched a movie. Oh, we watched a classic. I don't know if anyone remembers this movie. You'd have to be a little bit older, I think. But it's the Dennis the Menace movie from the early 90s. I loved the movie when I was growing up. Cody did too, and now Clark loves it. He's watched it a couple times since. So that was our movie of the night. It was on Netflix, I think. And yeah, that kind of wrapped the night up. Did we go swimming that night again? I can't remember. We may have. Yeah, I think we went swimming again that night. We swam a lot. It was a little out of hand. That's, if you guys didn't know, Clark and I, it's one of our big hobbies is swimming. So just assume that if there was a day that existed and we had a pool or access to a pool, we probably went swimming on that. But let's fast forward to Tuesday. Tuesday was another museum day. And luckily, we were already in Philadelphia, so we had more time, and we needed it because we went to an awesome museum called the Franklin Institute, which is not a museum of the human body, but a museum of science. And you could see things there like how electricity works, how motors work. They have a full-size steam engine train in there. It's like industry, the industrial revolution, and it was just amazing to see all these things. They even have live shows that we attended where they're doing things with like helium and they're like making small explosions and dry ice and all of those things that kids were like oohing and ahhing over, and maybe older kids like myself as well. It was really cool to see, and the guy they had doing it was fantastic. But my favorite thing there was the sports area that they had. And this was a thing where you could go in and you could test how high you can jump. They had basketballs kind of up in the sky, like at 5.5 feet, 6 feet, 6.5 feet, 7 feet, all up to 10 feet. And it was fun to try to see how high you could jump. They also had a thing on the wall where you could hit lights to do that. They had a surfboard thing that you could stand on. It would kind of mimic as though you're on an ocean. They had a thing to test your reflexes, to see how quick your reaction time was, like almost like a ping pong thing, almost like whack-a-mole where you're hitting these lights that come up on this wall in front of you. They had a thing that Cody did, which was awesome, that she could try to throw a baseball pitch and they shoot you in slow motion so you can see how your form is compared to an MLB player that was on a screen beside you. There was a thing where you could see how fast you run and what your stride is, almost like this track. And it was just like so much fun doing all this. They obviously had a lot of train stuff there that Clarkman was into as well. Lots of activities. Everything was so hands-on. They had like a working crane thing there where you could move the levers and try to pick up these foam blocks and move them. That was really neat. They had how to make like a circuit with electricity, gears, you name it, it was there. And if you have an interest in any kind of science, that's the place. So we had a blast there. I will say, if you want to talk Lego, there was the only Lego thing that I saw on our vacation was there, and it was a giant Lego Liberty Bell. I'll probably do a community post so you guys can see what it looks like on this channel. But that was neat. Clark and I got our picture taken in front of that. And it was just an awesome day. We were probably there for about 5 hours, to put it in perspective. And we saw and did everything. They also have a planetarium there, and we went there and saw like the story of how we're all connected through not telescopes, through satellites, and the power of like cell phones, and the connection that we all have, and how important that is, and how advancements in space have helped humans in their health because of technologies we developed that we now use in medicine. It was so cool. It was really awesome. And I would highly recommend going there if you get a chance. We still have more museums that we want to go to in Philadelphia, like the Natural History Museum, I think, is the one with dinosaurs in it. It was closed the days we were there, so we didn't have the opportunity to go there. One thing we didn't get to do also is that we saw the Lego Liberty Bell, but I want to see the real Liberty Bell. We didn't get a chance to do that. So there may be another trip to Philadelphia in the future, which I would love to do, because again, like there's so much there that you, even just a couple days, you can't see it all, especially if you're trying to hit these museums up, because it's just like, it's not just something you walk by, like you're engrossed in it. And I had so much fun. But that takes us to, I guess that would be Tuesday evening. We went out for dinner at a place called the Urban Farmer, which is like a steakhouse, and very expensive steaks, probably the most expensive steaks that I've seen in my life. And I think I got like a 14-ounce ribeye steak, and it was like almost $50 or somewhere around that. And to be completely honest with you, it was good, but I didn't really notice a huge difference between that and something you would get at, like, say, a Texas Roadhouse or something. Maybe I just don't have the palate to become a food reviewer or whatever, but it was good. Clark Man got a steak there. He ended up getting macaroni and cheese the night before, which I guess I should tell you what they got. He got this macaroni and cheese, which is probably the best macaroni and cheese I've had. It was $16 for it, which again, they know that you're probably a tourist and you're coming in and you're spending money, so everything is wildly inflated. Cody got shepherd's pie the night before, and then that night, I can't remember what meal she got. She didn't get steak. She got something else. Oh, it was chicken. It was like this chicken with a glaze on it. It looked good. Everything was very delicious. We went back and swam that night, so that was awesome. And then the next day, which was Wednesday, we left Philadelphia and went across the river to New Jersey, where Cody set up a tour of Adventure Aquarium in Camden, New Jersey for us. And that was really fun. We had been to one other aquarium 2 years ago. We went to the Baltimore Aquarium, which between the two, Adventure Aquarium, the one near Philadelphia and Camden, New Jersey, and the one in Baltimore, I highly recommend the one in Baltimore, Maryland more. It's way bigger. But what I like about the one in Camden was that it's way more hands-on. They have opportunities for kids to touch stingrays. You can feed animals. They have penguins outside where you can walk out and see them, and that was probably my favorite thing there. They also have sharks. They had this shark walk that you can do where it's like a net that comes down like this, and then you walk across when sharks are below you, and that was exciting. They have almost like what looks like a movie theater where you can sit down and just watch the aquarium and see all the animals in there. There was this giant sea turtle. There was so much there. They had hippos. They have 2 hippos, which were both underwater while we were there, so they didn't get to see much of them, but you could see them under there. It was incredible. Just being a part of that and seeing all that stuff was amazing. We considered actually going to the zoo in Philadelphia, but the day we did this, it was like 90 some degrees, and we figured it would be kind of a rough experience being outside. And the nice thing about the aquarium is that it's air conditioning. So we were in there enjoying that. And I feel like it's like seeing zoo animals kind of makes me a little bit sad, seeing them kind of like in captivity, even though, they have security and they're safe. There's no predators that are going to get them. It makes me a little sad. But seeing these animals like swimming around, I feel like they're pretty happy. At least I hope so. The penguins were very happy. We watched them get fed, and it was so funny watching them all go over, and they were getting their fish and their octopus and all this stuff to eat. And it was interesting because once you feed them a couple pieces, they're kind of good. They just kind of walk away. They had misters out there. You could go down to another level and see them going underwater and stuff. I was loving it. I love that place. It was so great to see all that. So we had a great time. We got lunch there, and they had like a kind of like a cafe type thing. And we got lunch and then took it outside and ate it while overlooking the city of Philadelphia, which was amazing. And the funny thing is, and this is terrible, I wanted a Philadelphia cheesesteak, and I didn't get an opportunity to do that because of how busy we were in the 2 days we were there. But I got a cheesesteak at the aquarium, and it was actually pretty good. It probably paled in comparison to an actual Philadelphia cheesesteak. But it was just funny that my Philly cheesesteak came from Camden, New Jersey at an aquarium, and my view of the Liberty Bell came from the Franklin Institute, and it was the Lego version of it. I just thought that was kind of funny. But it does open us up for a sequel to go back to Philadelphia and to see a few other things. Maybe get a cheesesteak to see the Liberty Bell. Go see the Rocky statue. That's a big thing that people like to do when they go to Philadelphia. I'm thinking of all the touristy things, but also go back to the Natural History Museum, see some dinosaur skeletons and stuff like that would be very cool. So that was, I guess, a very busy 3 days. It pretty much took our entire day. We left Monday morning and came back late Wednesday evening. We stopped for dinner on the way home. So lots of eating at restaurants and stuff, and that was enjoyable. But the memories that I have the most are just like seeing all the things and engaging with all of the exhibits at the museum, and getting to do that with my family was just awesome. So that hopefully explains why there weren't any Lego videos during those days. But when we came back on Thursday, I had to get back to work. It became essential that I started putting out videos. Like I had worked really hard the previous week, kind of working on the Outer Banks videos to have them scheduled out. Wednesday, I didn't have any videos at all, so I was bummed about that. But Thursday morning, I was like, okay, let's get to work. So I edited a bunch of content there for Greg's World. And then in the afternoon, I cleaned up the garage along with Cody, and then we cleaned up our kayaks to get ready for the next adventure, which was Friday. She had a friend from work invite us to go kayaking with them on the creek. And we haven't kayaked in a while. And it was really exciting to get them back out again and get back out on the water. That was until we got out there and realized just how fast the water was. This whole entire week had been a week of storms and rain pretty much every day in our hometown here. In fact, the one day, I think it was Sunday night, because we were watching Loki, which we finished, by the way. Maybe we'll talk about that in Watch Detect. I liked it. I won't spoil anything. I'll just leave it at that. I liked Loki. I'm excited to see what comes next. There was a tornado warning. So there was a lot of storms, lots of wind, lots of rain the entire week, which then means that the creeks rise and the current gets a little quicker. And we realized that pretty quickly once we got out there, but no big deal. That was until we came to this spot in the creek where these two trees that were kind of coming at each other towards the middle, and all of the water was being sucked in the center. It was the daughter, whose name's Autumn. It was Cody behind her. And then it was Patty, her friend, and then me right behind. So we're kind of going in a straight line. And her daughter Autumn ends up getting stuck in this. They hit this tree area, thinking that they could go over it, hits this tree area. Cody ends up going through it, gets stuck a little bit, but is able to get out of it. And then Patty hits it. Her kayak goes underwater entirely. And then I hit Patty, and then my kayak's like below Patty's. So we then proceed to spend the next 40 minutes trying to get these kayaks out that are completely stuck in there. The water pressure and the power of the water going through that area was so strong that we couldn't even move the kayaks. And I was at the point where I was like, okay, we came out here with 4 kayaks. We're going to go home with 2. Like, we're not getting these kayaks out. But through perseverance and pushing, Patty was pushing her legs down while I was pulling on the kayak, we're able to kind of put the kayak under this branch that was going across, and it got low enough that the current was strong enough that it pushed it out under. So it kind of just poop right out the bottom. Good description there, Greg. And we did that with those 2 kayaks, got the other ones out. Surprisingly, Patty's oar or paddle was still there. We thought we lost that, but the only things that we lost were my hat. I bought this fisherman's hats of sort of thing, like a sun hat at Eddie Bauer at Outlets, maybe in April. I thought this hat was so cool. And, Cody hates it, of course. So maybe it was good that it got lost, but I had it tied to the front of the boat because it was kind of just it was getting hot out. And I was like, I'm just going to take my hat off for a bit. This is before the incident. So I had it kind of strapped into the front. But when everything hit the fan, that was the first thing to go. We also lost a crock. Patty's daughter lost her crock, and Patty lost the back of her seat. But beyond that, I thought I lost one of my flip-flops because I was wearing flip-flops, but somehow we recovered it. So just a hat, a crock, and a seat out of all of that. And it was dangerous. It really taught me to respect the power of the current, because if you were in that kayak and you got sucked under that, it could have been really bad. It could have turned out really bad, but it was adventurous. And just like the rain incident from before, it kind of taught me that, sometimes it's these crazy things or these bad things that happen to you that create the memories and the stories of the future. It's the plot twist. I definitely wish I would have had a GoPro on me for this though, because it was wild. It seemed like all was lost, but then through perseverance, we ended up sailing down the rest of the way. There was no other further issues. There were some rapids and stuff and some sketchy times, with trees kind of down, but we made it out, and it's a great story to tell. It was fun. We survived. We made it back. So that was yesterday. Last night we watched a movie called Raya, The Last Dragon, which is on Disney Plus. It was good. It wasn't as good as Luca, which is Clark's other movie that he's been into on Disney lately. So I'm going to give it a 3 out of 5 stars. But the movie that I wanted to see, that Mrs. Brickitect didn't want to see, and for good reason, is the new Space Jam movie, which I've heard terrible things about. But as a fan of the original Space Jam, I kind of want to see it just to see how bad it is and to give it a shot. She asked that we wait to watch that, so when she's not here, which is kind of what this week's going to be. Today is Saturday. You're listening to this on Sunday. Unfortunately, today would typically be mail time, but I didn't have a chance to go to the post office, so we've got no mail to share with you guys. And this afternoon, we're going to be going to a birthday party for one of our friends' kids who's turning 10 years old, and Clark's looking forward to that. So we're going to be busy doing that. So this is pretty much it for this week. But next week, I might have more bad news for you in the world of Lego or Lego videos. Cody is going on a trip to, world travelers here. She's going to Maryland with her friend who's in-laws have a beach house there, and this is coming before our trip to Ocean City, which is going to be happening in August, which is kind of funny. But it's going to be like the girls' time, just a chance for them to reconnect. It's her best friend from childhood. They don't get to see much of each other anymore. So they're doing like a girls' thing together. And I think that's really cool. What's also epic about it is that it's going to be like Greg and Clark week, father and son week here. And Clarkman has already made a list of all the things that he wants to do and the plans that he has, including going camping. He wants to sleep in, he wants me to sleep in his bed with him, which we did once before when he had a tent on there and it was fun. It's just like little adventurous things. He wants to play video games together. He wants to do RC stuff. Maybe some Lego stuff in there too, but he has a whole bunch of stuff, and I have some ideas as well. Like we're going to go swimming. Obviously, we obviously need to go to town to get our mail to do mail time next week. But I'm going to try to like maybe make some Lego stuff here and there. Just know, and I like I said before, I sometimes felt guilty about this in the past. Like if there would be days that go by, I've never taken as many days off as I did this week. But like a day would go by and there'd be no video. I'd be like, oh man, people are like looking forward to that video, and I feel bad. But it's like, I'm trying to live to the fullest that I can during these summer months. So in the wintertime, I'm not like, oh man, I wish I would have done more. I don't want to ever like have regrets over not doing enough. So I'm just like fully embracing all the things that come at us this summer. I'm documenting that the best that I can, making videos of that. So if you're really looking for content, my vlog channel is probably the place to go for that, because man, I've got stuff for like every day, assuming that I have enough time to edit it. But I'm really looking forward to this coming week. Where it's Greg and Clark week, and I guess it could be Home Alone with Clark episodes. Like she's going Monday through Friday, so it could be like Home Alone with Clark week episodes 15 through 20 or whatever we're on. But we're gonna be doing some camping. We're gonna be doing some outdoor stuff. We're gonna be playing video games, I guess. We're gonna be sleeping in Clark's bed. We're gonna be swimming. We're just going to be living it up. Assuming the weather cooperates with us, we're going to have one heck of a week, and I'm really excited to spend this time with them, and like to have it where it's like us doing like almost like what we used to be, where before he went into like school full time, where it was just us every day doing our thing. Maybe we'll get into some mischief. You never know. We'll try to do some Lego stuff for you guys, for you to enjoy as well, and just bear with us. I know that it's kind of a bummer to not see stuff, but just know that we're having a lot of fun, and just really enjoying what the summer has to offer. So that's the plan, and I think that's pretty much it for this week and all the things that I wanted to share. A very busy week of being in Philadelphia and enjoying all there is there. Still so much more to go. Like I could have probably spent like 5 days there, but I'm glad to be back home, because we've just been so busy, and sometimes it is nice to be back in your space, but also it's nice to have a lot of fun. And I think you can do that almost anywhere. You don't have to go on a trip to have fun. You can do it right from your home. And that's what this week's going to be. We're going to be like staying at home, but doing a lot of great stuff. So stay tuned for that. I appreciate you tuning in to this week's episode. Sorry, this is essentially becoming podcast. Actually, I'm not sorry. I hope you enjoy the podcast. I hope you enjoy all the adventures that we go on as much as we do. And I hope to see you, and I hope to find you in the next Missing Pieces, which will be next Sunday. And it may be the video right after this, or there might be 5 other videos in between. I guess we'll see, and I'll report back to you next week on all the great stuff that we did this week and all the fun we had. So we'll see you then.